The return of Sunday Scaries off-season
Football,
time.
football. It never leaves. Football year round.
Right. A 12-month sport it is.
We took a brief vacation. We're back for the fun.
Nutmeg 2 Palmetto here. I think I'm pointing in the right direction. Bucks McGee over there.
Hello, hello.
Of course, the biggest topic of the hour is when is this diva going to get traded? the the other number 12 of current of contemporary football. What is the
Contemporary
latest on
football.
this Aaron Rodgers drama that doesn't seem to end?
Well, I guess what it is, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. And I believe they're probably still going over compensation. That's the only thing it's got to be. And I think the Packers are like, you know what, we're gonna drag this out because we can. You've put us through enough, so now it's
Mhm.
our turn. And I think it's just going to be compensation. They're probably asking for the moon and the stars, and I think the Jets at some point are going to have to give them what they want. Because if the Jets don't, the Jets have who do the Jets turn to?
The savior Mike White is gone.
Yes, Mike White is gone. Respect to Mike White. So then, do they turn to Lamar and say, "All right, guaranteed money, here you go," because there's there's no one out there. The free agents have dried up.
And if they drag it out past the draft, not that the Jets ever do well taking quarterbacks in the draft anyway, but but that's besides the point.
True,
um,
true.
they get it past the draft. Now you can't fall back to that as an option either.
No, honestly, you couldn't, because you figure most of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks are going to be gone before the Jets number is called. So they would have to trade up, and they'd have to give away a ton to get up there. Because I still think there's going to be some moves in the come draft night. There are some teams still looking for quarterbacks. So it's either you give the Packers what they want, or you're going to pay Lamar Jackson what he wants.
Yeah, and subsequently still give up picks because he's that
Yeah,
weird.
give up those lovely 2 first rounders.
Yeah, we'll get to that more. We'll get to that more in a second. But like, I get the weighted out philosophy from the Packers standpoint, other than the fact that at a certain point, don't you just want this to be done? And it does like, you know what, Jets, just give us like a couple twos and a couple threes and maybe a bit player, and just so we can wipe our hands of this and be done with Aaron and call it a day. Because they don't necessarily need a quarterback in return. I mean, I don't know if anybody really knows what Jordan Love is, but at least they have a player.
No, exactly. But it's also the fact that, and I think that's just, the world putting Aaron Rodgers on this forever pedestal of the greatest, it's the greatest thing, he's just this physically gifted, blah, blah, blah. And now the Packers are saying, well, if you want him, you got to pay. That's just what it is. It's become to the point where the Packers just don't want him. I think this has turned out worse than it did when Brett Favre was there and they traded him.
That felt like that was done overnight.
Yeah, it was like, we don't want you here anymore. This is what we're going to do. There it is. But Favre didn't go through the theatrics that Aaron has. Yeah. So now, because I don't think the move truly has to be done till June. I believe there's some clause in the contract where, it's a roster bonus situation, I believe, or something of that nature. I may be wrong, but they really don't have to do anything till June. So the Packers could just sit there and say, okay, this is cool.
And that's late. That's creeping up on camp.
Exactly. You're calling the Jets out. You're like, if you want him, you gotta pay for him. They don't care. What are they going to do? The Packers have their quarterback.
Yeah.
So the Jets are on the clock. They've got to figure it out.
Yeah, and they're, like you said, they're going all in because they don't have a backup plan. And the funny thing about the Jets is this is the type of move for a quarterback, because the Jets have a pretty solid all-around team past that position.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that the Jets, how many times over the years have we seen it? They cannot draft a quarterback. They cannot get the young guy thing right. So, like, this was really the route they needed to go to bring an established veteran. They just picked quite possibly the worst situation to get into as far as getting that established veteran. A team that is in no rush to trade him. They know they're going to get rid of him, but they control the clock. And a player that is a bit of a diva. And
Come on now.
Kind of an odd duckling too.
You know, you want to sit in the dark for 4 days and figure out your life. Okay, I guess that works for you. You know, but that was the funny thing. You know, he said when he was going into the room, for his, sabbatical there, he was 90% retired. Now you're telling me you sat in the dark and everything, and then you came out and you're still ready to play? No, I think it was just the fact that he was like, I don't want to be there anymore. Let me stick it, let me stick it to the Packers. Let me go somewhere. And unfortunately, the Jets were the most vocal about it.
And it also goes to show you how Rodgers wants to play both sides right now, because unlike, and we'll get to more of Derek Carr in a bit, but unlike Derek Carr, he just wanted out. He said, release me. I don't care about the money. I just want my pick of the litter where I go. I'll make my money. I'll make my money again. I'm still in my prime. Rodgers doesn't want out of that contract that he just signed. And I mean, rightly so. It's a shit ton of money. I wouldn't want to give that up either. But it's like, if you want to get out that bad, you're Aaron Rodgers. You should be able to get that money.
Yeah,
exactly. Where you newly sign after you're out.
Exactly. You should say, you know what? What can we do? Let's get this over and done with so I can move on. The Jets will freaking rename the stadium after him or whatever. They don't care.
And they'll probably be coming up to give him more money than the Packers just gave him last year.
Exactly. So now the Jets are sitting there going, hopefully he comes over to play. Hopefully he comes to play. And who knows what's going to happen. This is a horrible situation. The Jets look bad. And you signed Alan Lazard. Are you telling me that he was in your offseason plans? No, he wasn't. He wasn't in your offseason plans. Come on now. Now you have no choice.
Who walks into their strategy room after the Super Bowl and says, all right, we got to figure out who to sign. They look at the big board. They put the names. Allen's is Lazard. That's our man.
Now, Lazard isn't horrible, but I'm not sitting there going, yeah, that's the guy I got to get. That's the guy. Like, come on. And then Aaron Rodgers is going to hand them a note with, some guys that he'd like them to sign. Really? Do you really need Randall Cobb? Do you really need to sign Randall Cobb? Come on. Mind you, the guy, heart of gold, guy plays hard, but he's past his prime. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
So the Jets have dropped this, but that also at the end of the day is the fault of the owner putting his nose where it doesn't belong in this instance. Like, you own the team, I get it, but you have a GM, you have these people who handle the roster. Let them handle it. Now, if they mess it up, then you fire them and bring somebody better in. But come on, the Jets had finally kind of straightened out the ship. Yeah, the MILF Hunters is off and has messed some things up, but that team was still on the path. Now they're almost a joke now. It's like almost a joke. Every day we wake up, all right, what's Aaron Rodgers doing today?
The only reason we're not laughing at them as much as we used to is because they have a decent base. Whereas before, they would do this nonsense and have nothing.
Yeah.
You're just making yourself look like
one guy who's gonna change the team, and it's like, no, man, you have absolutely nothing there. You think this is gonna work? Okay.
Yeah.
And then they'd go 3-13, and we'd be like, yep, there's the Jets.
Yeah. This is almost like a pity situation, because you're like, damn, this team is like right there. It's right there. And now they just can't get this shit right to put them over the top.
Because a lot of analysts are saying Aaron plays for them, they can win the division.
Right.
But now who knows? Who knows what your quarterback's going to be?
And that's not the hottest take. Regardless of what the Jets are with potentially Aaron Rodgers, you look at the division. New England has definitely fallen into that post-Brady lull where it's like, oh boy, what's the future like? Miami can't keep their quarterback healthy.
No.
And Buffalo is perpetually in this.
Buffalo gets there, and for some reason just can't do it, and everybody wants to know it. Ask Stephon Diggs. He's done enough interviews where he's like, I don't know why we can't do it. We have the talent.
So Buffalo in the playoffs is like the Jets in the offseason.
Looking good, and then just shot the bed, can't figure it out.
Yeah. So it's not the hottest take. It's not the hottest take for Aaron Rodgers.
Not at all.
The Jets are the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I don't know, but the Jets need to figure it out and give the Packers what they want and move on.
Now the Jets, in addition to bringing in Lazard as some kind of strange strategy to sweeten the pot for Aaron, they also brought in Hartman from the Chiefs. Good move. Again, furthering this good base that the Jets have collected to build up. But that leads us into our next topic, the status of our most recent Super Bowl teams. The runner-up Chiefs have plugged in a lot of different pieces. They brought back Slay, which was kind of a weird situation. They released them or let him seek a trade or whatever the case may be, and then he wound up coming back with an extension anyway. They bring back his opposite quarter, Bradbury, of course, the hold heard around the world at the end of that Super Bowl. Couple little bit moves. They bring in Penny. They bring in Mariota as a backup to Jalen Hurts. And they re-sign two of their veteran offensive linemen, at least one of which they didn't know was going to come back. That's, of course, Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson. Now, Kansas City, conversely, has just lost a lot of pieces. And I don't know if this is reality setting in from that $500 million contract that they gave to Mahomes. But so what's the status of the Super Bowl teams into the offseason now with the Eagles kind of holding serves? They lose some, they bring some back, they re-sign some key pieces, and the Chiefs just kind of getting decimated across the roster.
Well, you knew the Eagles were going to take a hit. They had a lot of guys that were going to be free agents and such, and they weren't going to be able to keep everybody. That's just the nature of the league. You get these guys, and you think the teams try to look 4 or 5 years down the road, but sometimes you just don't. You play for the moment. And the Eagles, they knew coming up that they were going to lose guys. Now, this team is young enough where I think, they can pick up some pieces in the draft and still probably win that division. But when you lose like Hargrove on the D-line, he goes to the Niners. So, and that's a big piece right there. He was the biggest piece they were worried about. They weren't going to pay him. They weren't going to pay him big money. So Slay, they said, okay, you want to see if you can find something? Then, hey, do what you got to do. We're going to release you. We're going to be honest with you. He wasn't a fan of the move, but they end up coming up with, an agreement, and he comes back. Bradbury, they had to keep him. He was quality. The hold, my opinion, yeah, it was a hold, but I don't think I wouldn't have made the call. But
no, the Super Bowl shouldn't end like that.
Yeah, exactly. But it is what it is. I think one of the biggest move that may hurt that defense is Gardner Johnson leaving. He signs a 1-year deal with the Lions, which is kind of weird to me. Now, mind you, the Lions secondary was very rough last year, very rough. So it shores him up. I don't know if he's trying to play for a 1-year, prove it deal. I don't think he has to. He's a great safety. So I think the Eagles are going to be okay because their offense is, except for Miles Sanders, losing him, I think kind of hurts a bit in the run game, but I think they've got the pieces where that offense will morph a bit. So I think they'll be okay. Chiefs, I don't know, man. The Chiefs are interesting here. Okay, you lose Juju.
Just when we thought Patrick couldn't have any less receivers.
Because then because you lose, like you said, you lose Juju, you lose Hardman. So now the question is where you kind of figured truly where the offense runs through, and it's through Travis Kelce. Let's be realistic. That's the way that offense has run the last few years. They got Pachenko, at running back. But now I guess they're assuming they're going to pick up some pieces in the draft. Maybe they know something in the draft that all of us don't know. But now I think you're going to kind of see it's going to become more and more, Patrick, you got to save us. Patrick, you got to save us. And as he gets older, the running around magic moves aren't going to work.
Do that voodoo that you do so well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. I'm assuming that they're going to pick up some pieces in the draft. They've drafted well in the past, but there's a point where you got to give that guy some help. And I think his contract is friendly in that way, so they probably will be able to do something. But yeah, I figured they would have signed Juju to something a little bigger, or at least to match it. Yeah, he wasn't Tyreek Hill, but it gives you that continuity in the offense still. But I guess Tony is going to be the guy in that offense.
Tony, and there was I can't think of his name off the top of my head. There was a rookie they drafted last year that was
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore, yes, thank you. Yeah.
So maybe they feel they can build on these guys, but the problem is that Travis he's a year older. Once Travis gets to that point where he's not able to run those routes like a wide receiver and be that physical, are you telling me that Sky Moore and Tony are going to be the guys? They're quick and shifty, but they need that big physical guy.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have it. So,
I mean, quick and shifty, they've proven in the past that quick and shifty can work because that's pretty much what Tyreek Hill is.
Yeah.
But that's all. That also didn't work too well in that Super Bowl against the Bucks when they couldn't protect Mahomes and Tyreek was getting double teamed.
No, exactly. And as Mahomes gets older, all that magic and shifty and throwing the ball isn't going to happen. He's going to have to slowly start to become, and he can do it, the pocket passer.
Yeah.
So I think that offense will probably be a work in progress. They're still going to score points, but I think right now the Eagles are a little more cohesive right now.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Which is good because the division we'll get into a little bit later, but the division's kept up with the Joneses as well.
Mm-hmm.
Other quarterback, big hot news, of course, is one. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson have to be the most dysfunctional relationship I've ever seen in my life. In fact, I could probably think of dysfunctional marriages I even know in my past that were more functional than this.
Exactly. This is the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. I think the worst part of it all is the fact that not one team has stepped up and made an offer.
Yeah.
And right now the Ravens are sitting pretty.
Yeah.
The Ravens are sitting pretty now. Now everyone kind of equates this to, well, if Cleveland hadn't given Watson that fully guaranteed contract, Lamar probably would have signed somewhere by now.
Fair.
The league, I think, really frowned on what Cleveland did. The owners were like, nope, why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? I think Cleveland was so hungry to get a name at the quarterback position because let's be honest, their quarterback, it's been rough. It's been rough. I think there's 30 for 30s on this. It's fact.
Like that T-shirt that since they bought that back, it's like all the names on it.
And
Tim Couch is on there 4 times.
Seriously, I was bringing back for fun. Spurgeon win, like really. He was part of the Brady Six. If you've never seen that documentary, watch that. The Brady Six, great documentary. But I digress. So yeah, I think the owners were like, really, Cleveland? That's what you're going to do? And I honestly think there is kind of a united front where it's like, we're not doing that. We're not giving them a fully guaranteed. So the Ravens are sitting there going, okay, well, if someone offers you something decent, we'll match it. And then what are you going to do? So right now, he's a man without a country.
Oh, and it's just like, I understand the argument against Lamar that he runs too much. He's got to be more disciplined in the pocket and develop that side of his game. But regardless of whether he runs or throws, first of all, he can throw. I'm amazed that he doesn't do it more often because this man's got a gun. But secondly, whether he runs or throws, he still gets shit done and he still wins games. So it's like, just decide, just figure out if you're going to pay him or not. If you're not, just let the man go.
That's how they ran that offense, though. Like, let's be realistic. They had no wide receivers. You're telling me Hollywood Brown was the best you could get? like honest, you bring in Deshaun Jackson back from wide receiver, the old folks home, and because all he can do is literally run a straight line. The man's
I was going to
fast,
say back from the dead. You can say it.
and all he can do is literally run a straight line.
Yeah.
Like, let's be realistic here. Everyone, he needs a physical receiver because all you got to do is blanket Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews was beat to hell. Like, come on. So now Lamar's sitting there, and I get it. You believe you're worth this, and you've proven it when you're healthy. Now the team, I'll be honest, it's partially the Ravens' fault. That offense that they run puts Lamar at risk.
Right.
I think teams need to sit there and say, well, this is not the offense we run, so Lamar will probably stay healthy, but he's got to be able to throw the ball. And like you said, I think he can. But now it's a standstill. Will one team step up and say, all right, Lamar, we'll give you maybe 3 years guaranteed. Will you take that? Because, people were saying Lamar doesn't want fully guaranteed. Nobody knows who's saying what. Like, this is just a cluster.
And like, I can't fault Lamar for playing this the way he has, because one, he's proven that he's worth the money that these quarterbacks get nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it's football. It's a violent sport. You gotta if you're gonna make the big money, you gotta make it while you can. But I will say, based on to follow up on follow up or reinforce what you said earlier, the fact that this has lasted this long does work more to Baltimore's favor. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Yes. So the Baltimore's favor as a team perspective, because now it's going to get to the point where who's ever left that actually needs a quarterback is probably going to be able to throw some number at him. Well, obviously, if they're willing to lose the picks, they're going to be willing to just throw some number at him that is probably too high for Baltimore to match, mm-hmm. but not so high that it destroys your cap.
Mm-hmm.
And Baltimore kind of, or again, it doesn't destroy your cap. Baltimore could win out one way or the other because they could lowball Lamar. Lamar could be like, well, shit, I got to get a team next year at this point. Yeah. So he could accept it and just to get out of this toxic situation. And they either let him go, get the picks, or match it, keep him, and he's got now he's got a contract that he agreed to, but it's also a lot lower number than probably he was demanding Baltimore pay him.
Or he signs the tender and sits.
Well, that's true.
And refuses to come to camp till I forget what week it is. Refuses to come to camp. So then there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tender, I believe, is like between 32 and 34 million, and it's basically preventing Baltimore from really doing anything. So it's just a bad situation overall.
Preventing them from doing anything. Justice Hill and Nelson Aguilar, yes, preventing them from doing something indeed.
Yeah, so it's going to be rough. You just kind of hope the guy gets something and he can move on. But I think this is going to drag out and become uglier.
Yeah, if that's even possible.
So then the question is this: what do you think happens first? Do the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, or does Lamar get on a team?
If something has to happen by June with Rodgers, I would probably definitely say Rodgers.
Okay.
Because I could see Lamar I could see Lamar signing the tender and holding out.
Do you think he should have had an agent? Do you think this is hindering him?
I mean, if Laramie Tunsil can get his money without an agent, then Lamar Jackson should be able to get his money without an agent.
Yep, highest paid lineman. There you go, Laramie. Get yours, bro. Get yours.
Unless, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head of what Lamar's asked for, unless he's just asking for something so extraordinary that it's just like, okay, dude. But I would hope that Lamar's asking for something that's comparable to the other quarterbacks that are like at his level of achievement in the league, for lack of a better word.
So then who would that be?
Now
don't forget, he's the second. He's only the second unanimous MVP.
Right.
Who was the first?
Ding, ding.
As we continue. So, like, who is he comparable to? Is he better than Russell Wilson?
I would say money-wise, I mean, right now I take Lamar over Russell Wilson. However, but like legacy versus, I think legacy-wise, I think the money that Russ makes should be comparable to the money that Lamar should be asking.
So you think he should be paid in the Russell Kyler
Yeah.
era? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely should not be making any less than Kyler Murray. Give me a break. I mean, Kyler should be like the floor for Lamar's negotiating.
All right.
Lamar can actually get his team to the playoffs.
I'm going to throw one more at you, and then you tell me, because this guy hasn't gotten his contract yet, but he's going to get it soon because he's probably part of the big 2 or 3 in the AFC. Justin Herbert.
Oh.
Now, Lamar has won a playoff game.
I think, well, yeah, I think Lamar should be asking for more than Herbert. I think Lamar is deserving of getting more than Herbert. And I think it's beneficial to Lamar that Herbert is not up for an extension yet.
So to you, Lamar is probably the 4th best quarterback in the AFC.
Behind Burrow, behind Mahomes, and
Josh Allen?
Josh Allen. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Who's your number 5?
I was going to say something funny, but I won't do it.
I'm going to say technically, I guess it would be Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't signed yet, but I would say Aaron Rodgers would be the 5th.
It could be. It could be.
I would say Aaron Rodgers would be the 5th guy.
Honestly, it's a tough call between Herbert and even Russ.
Oh, I would take Herbert over Russ.
Yeah.
Right now. Russ has to show me something this year. Like, you got a new coach and all this fun stuff. If Sean Payton can't fix him, then Les Ride needs to ride out.
Yeah.
Like, this is the year right here.
Yeah. If you can't figure out how to play with Sean Payton, get the fuck out of Dodge. Excuse me.
You know, like, you should be throwing for like 4,500 yards, 30-something touchdowns. You should be lighting up the world.
Yeah.
But, all right.
Well, other quarterbacks, one that could have been in this discussion previously, but now he's switched conferences. That is, of course, another quarterback that recently got out of a very toxic situation with the Raiders, Derek Carr, venturing on down to the NFC South with the New Orleans Saints. He got that buyout from the Raiders. He said, piss off, I'm out of town. Got his outright release, got his pick of the litter, certainly did his full tour. I mean, he visited with the Jets, he visited with Carolina. He was all over the place. Picked the Saints, a little bit of a head scratcher. And this is going to lead into a broader discussion of that division in a minute. But what do you think? What do you think was going through Derek Carr's mind? Did he make the right decision picking New Orleans?
I think he did it because of Dennis Allen. Him and Dennis Allen have worked together. I think it was, that. Oh, I know, familiarity. They were, they've known each other. So it was kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable with this guy. Honestly, I like Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is great, is talented. If I was him, I would have went to the Jets. I think the Jets have more upside.
Oh, yeah.
The Saints are on borrowed time. Like, I think some people still look at the Saints as the Drew Brees Saints. And no, like, let's be realistic. Michael Thomas, I think they restructured him. He's on a 1 year. He's not
Kamara's
the Michael
made us fall apart.
Yeah, he's not the Michael Thomas of old.
Yeah.
Kamara, you don't know if he's going to be there this year. He may go to jail. He may do some time. We don't know.
Yeah.
Beating people up, whatever.
And if he doesn't go to jail, he's about ready to fall apart.
Exactly. Like, let's be realistic. So your wide receivers are suspect. Let's be realistic, suspect. Kamara's decent, but I don't think he's the top 10 running back. He might be. Running backs nowadays are a dime a dozen, but
I mean, Kamara.
Drew Brees made him. I'm going to be honest.
Right.
Let's be realistic.
Kamara was the only reason Kamara is a household name is because of Drew Brees.
Drew Brees and Sean Payton, because of that offense. That defense is slowly getting older. So if I was Carr, I would have taken the Jets. I just think he probably felt comfortable, and they gave him that homey feeling, because that's kind of what was portrayed once he signed. There were the pictures with the family. I think there was a picture that him and his family took, and they compared it to one of Drew Brees, and it was kind of similar, and it was like, okay. But you know what? If that's what makes him happy, fine. But I don't know. I think I would have went with the Jets.
Yeah, that was. And it's just again, it makes it a real shame that the Jets are in this situation now with Rodgers, because they could have solidified themselves very early on if they were able to land Carr. They wouldn't be in this mess right now, and they still would have gotten a quarterback knocking on the door of elite status.
Yeah, exactly. And he would have been. I honestly, with him, I don't know if they may have won of the division. They may have. I think the Jets have that kind of talent. But they definitely playoffs, and without a question, I think they would have made the playoffs.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So now you're going to kind of see what the Saints are, and he may win them a game or two, but I don't think that team is as good is better than the Raiders were when he was there. I think the Raiders might have been a better team offensively.
Yeah, I think it's very much a flip of the coin situation, but I definitely don't think he necessarily significantly upgraded by any stretch.
Exactly. Like I get it. You had Jameis and you had the red rifle. So like anything was an upgrade. No disrespect, whatever. But it wasn't like those guys had major pieces anyways. Like, let's be realistic in that offense. So, hey, hopefully it works out for him, but I don't see it that way.
This takes us into our next topic of this revolving doors of quarterbacks that has seemed to unfold in the NFC South. Will be the only division going into next season with 4 new quarterbacks on every team, each on one on every team. That's of course the aforementioned Carr with New Orleans, your Bucks signing Baker, bringing
Baker Bay, baby, it's Baker Bay.
The Carolina remains to be seen, but Darno has gone to be one of the backup contingent in San Francisco. So one way or the other, they're going to have a new quarterback. And then Atlanta, well, I guess technically Atlanta's not going to have a new quarterback because I'm sure Ritter will be the starter, will be the favorite for the starter, but he only started about 2 or 3 games. So he's really as fresh as the other ones. The only difference is getting camp.
In theory, this will be his team, but who knows?
Yeah.
Draft night's a scary thing.
Yeah. And he's got another man with the plan behind him, keeping the clipboard warm, the Heineken can himself.
Tyler Heineke's going to get some play this year. All right. People need to put some respect on that man's name. I'm scared he's in my division. He almost beat us in the wild card a couple of years ago. I can't mess with Tyler Heineke. That guy's real.
He was the only quarterback that came anywhere near to beating you that season.
I don't know if Tom said, you know what, I'm going to make you look good, let you get some money. I'll keep it close, but I got to win. I don't know, but Tyler Heineke's, I think he's a decent quarterback, but it's going to be interesting. So I think that team you watch, because if training camp goes and all of a sudden Heineke's just there, because he just feels like that quarterback who's like that guy who the guys rally around.
Mm-hmm.
If he ends up becoming a voice in that locker room, Ritter's going to be holding a clipboard week 1.
Davis Mills with talent. He's Davis Mills with talent.
They got Davis Mills. He ain't got that neck. Cut that out.
Okay, so now with this revolving door, who's the favorite in this division? Because this is like a lot of retooling, a lot of messy situations. Like who is the actual favorite now in this division with all this change?
Oh man,
change is the most important position on the field.
Yeah, exactly. Like this division is mind-boggling. I of course take my fandom out, as I should. I don't know. Like people could you have to look and say which team is the most, I guess, complete out of all of them. Honestly, I think the Saints. I think the Saints may be the worst team in that division.
Wow.
I really. If you look at the Saints and you look at if you're looking purely offensively, let's see. The Panthers have upgraded.
The Panthers to me are like Jets light. Like they have a solid team, but not to the level that the Jets have a solid all-around team.
See, the issue is what is Frank Reich going to do? Now, Frank Reich had been there a couple of years. I would say, honestly, it would be a toss-up between them and Tampa because of the continuity and such. I think Tampa's defense is the best defense in that division. I really do. I think Tampa's secondary is better. They were able to keep Jamel Dean. I like their defense. I think the Panthers are young. Their run game is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be a question of the quarterback and who the quarterback is. Like, are they going to take, I don't even know. I think Stroud is probably going to take.
Yeah, I pulled up a mock.
I
pulled up a mock so we can go over that at the end of the show. And like Stroud is the projected one, but I'm kind of like scared that they're going to do that because Ohio State quarterbacks don't do well in the NFL. I don't know why. No one has figured that out yet.
But if you go the other way, and nothing against him, the guy's got talent, but the guy's like 5'0" nothing, bro. Like it's not college, it's it's the NFL, man. Like Breeze was able to do it. Breeze was a shorter quarterback, but he was able to do it. I don't know. Like I don't know. That to me is, I guess, because I just like the prototypical, 6'3", 6'5" guy in the pocket. That's just me. If you can move a little, that's a bonus. But I want a guy who can sit in the pocket, look down the field, and just do what he does. So I don't know. So Carolina is kind. I would, I don't want to say incomplete, but I think they're both those teams are better than New Orleans. The Falcons are going to be interesting because Ritter's the guy, but is he the guy?
They're the strangest team because they probably have the least talent of all four of them, but do they play hard?
Well, offensively, I think that offensively they definitely have pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, the running back position, tight end when what's his name comes back healthy, Pitts, and a wide receiver. So they've got pieces. It's just, can they put it all together? So I think that division is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be some growing pains.
Yeah.
Especially in Tampa. They signed Baker to the 1 year. Now it's a situation, it's Baker versus, Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask hasn't had a chance to really, really chase the job because when you have the greatest of all time there, you're going to sit there and just relax.
Yeah.
Blaine Gabbert's gone. So now it's time for Kyle to either be the guy or not be the guy. And I think Baker has talent. I really do. I think Baker just needs to be in an environment where it's like, okay, you can be the guy, but this is how we do it.
Yeah.
Now, I think Tampa possibly could be that. Exactly. I think when he was in Cleveland, it was, no, you're the savior. you're the savior. So, here it is. And I don't think that worked for him. I think he's kind of got some humility, but I think he's got the chip. Now he's got on that offense, you got Mike Evans. The tight ends are young. You got good running backs. So I think they're going to play to his strengths. He doesn't have to be the savior. And I think that's going to help him.
With all that retooling, how hot is Todd Bowles' seat?
I think he's got another year. I think this year, if they don't make the playoffs, the seat starts to become warm.
So you think he's got this season?
Oh, I think he definitely does, unless they just totally bottom out. I think if they start the season like 1-6, then they're going to be like, okay, what's going on? But those guys, for the most, especially on the defensive side of the ball, believe in him, and that defense is solid. That defense is young, it's fast. They did sign Levante David back, but I don't think he's lost much of a step. So I think, yeah, they're not going to put up 35, 40 points. These aren't the Brady Bucks. But they'll put up some points, and I think they're going to be that defense is going to cause some turnovers, and they're going to be in it.
Well, as we transition into the best of the rest, we'll stay on the Bucks for a second. What do you think of the sum of the parts of the offseason? Bringing back David, obviously the Baker move's part of it. Bringing Chase Edmonds to replace playoff Lenny.
I'm telling you right now, man, I'm impressed. They were like $52 million in the hole. They were in the worst cap situation in the league. I think New Orleans was like negative like 35, 36. They made New Orleans look like New Orleans was printing money, because everybody knows every year New Orleans always short, but they would just figure it out. For what they did, and they were able to re-sign Jamel Dean. He was their best cornerback this year. And he was a top 10 free agent. A lot of people thought that he was going to resign somewhere for serious bucks. But they were able to bring him back. So, and then, they added quality pieces. I think Chase Edmonds is going to be good. They've added some little pieces to kind of, shore some things up. They're still going to, have to work on the cap at some point, but for what it could have been, they're still a team that can play. They're still going to be a very, very, I think they're not a great team, but I think they're going to be a good team that's going to grow. So I'm impressed with what they did. Jason Light deserves GM of the year, to be able to lose, Leonard Fournette.
Just for getting you above water. That gives you some breathing room.
like seriously, to get these guys to extend, because that's the thing. If you're a player and you extend your contract like that and do all the bonus thing, you've got to believe in what the team's doing. You got to believe in it.
Yeah.
Because
otherwise you're just hanging around for another 3 years for nothing.
Yeah. All right, peace, see you later, man. Just give me my money.
Yeah.
So no, what they were able to do was incredible. So I think, they're going to have to hit in the draft for sure. I think maybe some D-line help. I think you got to – here's the thing. I think maybe you look wide receiver, because Mike Evans is on year 9. And he's been unbelievable. If you look at his numbers on this path, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
If you look at what he's done, he's a Hall of Famer. He's not the flashy. He doesn't get, the Tyreek Hill press and all of that, but he's consistent. He gets dinged up, but he's able to come back and perform. He's guarantees you 1,000 yards every year. But I think you have to start to look and say, okay, we're going to have to start looking elsewhere. He's going to need some help, because you got Godwin, and Justin Gage has got to stay healthy. You signed him for beginning of the season. He was good, but then he was nicked up, and you didn't know when he was going to play. So I think they might look that way, or maybe they're going to pick up some pieces if something falls their way defensively, but they're going to be competitive.
So that's the take on your team. We'll talk about my team a little bit. Not quite ready to jump ship to Carolina.
man. Just jump the ship, Chase.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Just rip the Band-Aid off, man. It's okay. It hurts at first, but you feel better.
Yeah, but you had the pot sweetened by Tampa getting your Super Bowl right off the bat.
I got lucky. That New England threw away, didn't want the greatest of all time, and he fell in my backyard. Yes. And now I got Baker Mayfield. All right. So let's be realistic here. But you know what? And I'll say this, being down here and meeting Tampa fans and stuff like that, they know what they've got. They're like, yep, they'll be like, yep, we suck. And they will tell people, you know what, if you're only here for Brady, kick rocks. They'll tell you straight to your face, kick rocks. But if you're here for the ride, then we're here with you.
And you know what? That's kind of refreshing because during the whole Brady winning New England era, Patriots fans got really obnoxious and didn't remember when they were garbage.
Well, no, and but you've also got to understand the majority of those fans that were fans during the Brady era grew up, they were born into it.
That's also true.
So 20 years of it, literally 6 titles in 20 years, right? So you're saying every 3 years, you're seeing a Super Bowl. You were consistently, literally banging on the door every year. And that's all these kids knew. That's all their parents knew. So you were like, woo, every 3 years, yo, we're gonna be partying, yada, yada. They didn't have to go through it. You know, they didn't go through those Bledsoe, even before Bledsoe, you know, the Steve Grogan whooped up in the Super Bowl and seeing, you know, Bledsoe get whipped up by Brett Favre in the Super Bowl, Desmond Howard, you know, they didn't go through that. They were just born into the greatness. And I always said that because me and you had these conversations. Yeah. You had the fans who were like, yep, this is going to happen every year. And I would always say, you better enjoy what you have because it ends. It ends. Like, I was never cocky about it because I was like, yo, man, I was there when he got hurt against the freaking Chiefs. And I was like, oh, it's over now.
You were like one of, I could think of two. I can think of 2 people I know in my life. You were one of the 2 that was not that obnoxious New England fan.
Because it was like, because first of all, football is that sport. Your quarterback goes down, that's it. It's over. Yeah. When Brady went down that year, Matt Castle took us to 11-5, and we didn't make playoffs. 11-5. You know, and it was like you've got to enjoy it because it doesn't happen often. This was an anomaly. Let's be realistic. Everyone's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes, how many is he going to win? Mm-hmm. Let's be realistic now. The next 3 to 4 years with Mahomes is the telling tale because everyone's like, well, maybe he catches Brady. Maybe he doesn't. What happens if Andy Reid in 2 years decides to walk away and they put some jamoke at head coach and it all falls apart? Like, let's be realistic here.
Hey, so, Tampa knows. Bruce Arians walked away out of nowhere.
You know, like, believe me, like, I remember when I took Sarah to our first Bucks game, dude, and the Bucks were like 2-13 that year or whatever. It was one of the few wins. They beat the Falcons, and it was like people were like crying. It was like, oh man, we won a game. And like you talk to the fans down here, and they're like, you know what? We're probably not going to be good, but they're our team, and you respect that. So yeah, man, you know, it is what it is. When it comes to you guys, it's a situation of what do you guys believe you are?
Yeah. And
are you a contender, or are you guys ready to say let's rebuild? That's the question because Matt Ryan's gone.
Right. And I'm upset that they haven't given a definitive answer to that question so far. There's been a lot of subtractions, but no like big franchise changing ones. They don't, you know, they didn't do anything with Taylor, they didn't do anything with Leonard, so that they haven't like completely burned the ship down and started over, but they also didn't bring in any huge pieces. Like they brought in our favorite internet meme of a quarterback, Uncle Rico.
Uncle Rico, baby, yes.
And they bring in Isaiah McKenzie, who's a good piece, but he basically just replaces Zach Pasquale. Now, is Isaiah McKenzie better than Zach Pasquale? Probably, but Zach Pasquale did a lot of good things in Indy.
Right, but was Isaiah McKenzie good because of Josh Allen?
That's also true.
So here's the thing. You knew they weren't going to get rid of Leonard and they weren't going to get rid of Taylor. Like, come on now. Like, at that point, that's then at that point you're gonna have 5 people in the stands. You're gonna have less people than the Orlando Guardians of the XFL. So let's be realistic. The question is, because they've been so silent, are they going to make a deal to move up and grab one of the top 4 quarterbacks in this draft? I think they're making a move. They have to. They have to.
Right now,
Do you think Jim Irsay is going to sit there and be like, "Yeah, we want to be the bottom dwellers of the South"? Because right now, if you look at all those teams,
Jim Irsay will never accept that.
Well, exactly. Because right now, which team in your division are you better than? Right now, who are you better than?
I could argue. Well, I could argue we're better than Houston and Tennessee.
No, you're not better than Houston. I mean Tennessee. Houston, I'll give you. Houston, who knows? Those guys played for Lovey with heart, but D'Amico Ryans is. I don't know, man. That's an interesting one. We'll take Houston out because they're almost like an incomplete.
Yeah.
But better than Tennessee?
I don't know. I know I'm probably rose-colored glasses, but I just Tennessee.
You guys would take Ryan Tannehill if you guys could get Ryan Tannehill, you would take him.
Well, that's fair. Over what we have,
Uncle Rico, Ryan Tannehill.
I can't believe I'm saying it, but yes, Ryan Tannehill.
I love me some Uncle Rico, and we joke about it because it's the lore of it, and they usually have those 1 or 2 games where we're like, oh, this is it, and then they just bottom out.
Yeah.
But no, I think, and because you guys have been quiet, I think you guys are going to make a move.
Well, right now at number 4, we are slated in this mock I'm looking at to take Anthony Richardson of Florida.
Now they see I wouldn't. The kid's got talent. There's no doubt about it. Do you want to now? If Irsay is ready to say, you know what, the kid, his upside is unbelievable. We're willing to take him as a project. Then you got to pick yourself up. Well, you got Uncle Rico, but is that who you want him to learn from?
Yeah, no.
I would have kept Matt Ryan and said, okay, teach this kid how to be a pro.
Yeah, well, that's true. But would he have been willing to accept that Matt Hasselbeck role?
You make it an open competition, and if the kid beats you, then the kid beats you.
I mean, the kid may beat Uncle Rico.
He could.
He may not be learning from Uncle Rico because he may beat Uncle Rico.
Right, but in the grind of a season, if the kid's got questions, who would you rather him go to, Matt Ryan or Uncle Rico?
I mean, Uncle Rico, in his defense, was behind Jalen Hurts for a couple of years, so he did have a good quarterback in front of him in recent memory to learn.
Come on, man. Come on, bro. I would rather want to learn from the guy who lost 28-3 at halftime of the Super Bowl. No, I'm kidding. Ding. No, come on. Matt Ryan was an MVP. Like, Matt Ryan did it right. Like, that's the guy.
I would have had no problem with them bringing him back, but I don't think Matt Ryan would have wanted to go back with how they.
No, if he comes to you after he loses and he's like, let me go, then yeah, cut him then. But you're giving him the opportunity.
Yeah.
If he can't look himself in the mirror and say, hey, you know what, I couldn't beat out the kid, I'm going to sit, I'll be that backup because I love this game. I still think I can play, but I can learn. Maybe I get in, someone picks me up, then fine. But if you think you're going to go and start for somebody, I guess you're going to the Ravens.
Yeah.
Throwing a Nelson Aguilar. You going to turn him into a Pro Bowler? I don't think so.
I will say the only other one, there's no quarterbacks past Richardson in the mock. And the other one, like I said, I really don't want CJ Stroud just because Ohio State quarterbacks scare the absolute daylights out of me.
He could be.
I would take Bryce, but
who?
I would take Bryce Young. But I don't think Houston's going to let him go. I don't think Houston's going to pass up that opportunity.
What about good old Will?
Will
Levitt's there.
He is nowhere near this. I don't think he's getting any. I don't think he's getting any love.
I think he's a solid quarterback.
Pick 18. Pick 18.
They have him 18?
Yep.
I don't know, man. I think that kid's got some guts. I think that kid could be guy. Now, here's the thing. If Irsay is hell bent on one of those two guys, he has to trade up. He has to trade up.
Yeah, Bryce.
So are you taking a project or are you looking for the most polished? JC is the most polished quarterback, I believe.
And that's the thing to me that's hard to answer right now because they haven't given this clear definition of what their offseason's been like. It's like I don't know. Like I honestly I don't know whether I want the project or the polished. I don't know because I don't know what this team is. I don't know whether this team is rebuilding or this team is plug and play. Let's go.
Well, you've got to ask yourself: are you willing to take a really bad season if you know that in 2 to 3 years you guys are going to turn it around, or are you just looking to make the playoffs and just get bounced in the first round?
I don't want to get bounced in the first round.
I think maybe you take the project.
Right. Yeah. I'm okay if the kid can play. I'm okay with taking a project and eating a couple bad years. That's fine.
Then maybe you also then got to trade off then you may have to get rid of the veterans who are going to give you some value.
And that's an unfortunate consequence. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's what it is. I think a team really needs to look at it and say, hey, what do we want to be? Are we looking long-term or do we just want to get one playoff game maybe in our house to, because at that point it's like, it's whatever, then who cares?
Yeah. Ripping through the rest of these, the next one I got is the Dallas Cowboys. Little decent bit of action. Brandon Cooks, bring in a receiver that might actually complement CD. They brought back Tyron Smith. Mm-hmm. Obviously you got to do that. You need your blindside guy, and to tie this back to the Colts we just talked about. Another piece we dumped off. We sent Gilmore to Dallas for a 5th. So is this kind of like a decent hold serve off season for Dallas? Oh, and they brought back Cooper Rush.
Oh, right there. Pencil him in for the Super Bowl.
Hey.
Cooper Rush is a conference championship. If they brought in the DiNucci, then I would have said Super Bowl. Super Bowl. I like the Gilmore move. I think he gives them that veteran presence on the secondary. He can teach those young guys.
Yeah, maybe Diggs will not take so many chances.
Yeah, for every interception, gives up 4 touchdowns. But whatever. I think it's good to have a veteran on that defense, and Gilmore's done it. He's a champion. He's been a defensive player of the year. He's got that knowledge. Brandon Cooks is interesting. Now, who out of these 3, you rank them? Now you say, there's no doubt that Lamb's number 1. Now, out of Gallup and Brandon, who's better?
Probably Brandon Cooks. I think that's fair to say.
I think because he's been pretty durable. Gallup's he's been nicked up and such. I think it works. I think it's a good move. It gives him a speedster, stretches the field.
Yeah.
Gallup doesn't have to try to be truly number 2 guy. He can kind of do his thing. I think losing Dalton Schultz hurts them.
Yes,
they have a couple decent tight ends, but I think Schultz they should have kept.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they've added a little bit, but now I think the bigger question is now that Kellen Moore's gone, who's calling the plays? Good old Mikey. McCarthy's calling the plays, so now we're gonna see.
Yeah. Did Kellen land anywhere? Did I miss that?
Chargers.
That's right.
Chargers. So if all of a sudden you see Herbert and those guys start to explode, there you go.
You knew Dallas made a mistake. They should have said bye Mike McCarthy a long time ago. Kellen, here's the ropes.
Yep. She said, here you go, my friend.
Yeah.
But no, I think Dallas added. There's more addition and subtraction. I like the moves.
Yeah. Next one, the aforementioned Derek Carr we already spoke about. Obviously, he left a gaping hole with the Raiders. So they bring in the replacement, Jimmy G. The Raiders did a lot of exiting. I mean, they got rid of Darren Waller, who wasn't much of a use last year. In and out, hurt to start the year. When he came back, he wasn't really effective. And by the time he did come back, Devontae Adams was having an MVP level season. So
Yeah.
Darren Waller was kind of extremely
He was an afterthought.
expendable.
Yeah.
So he's gone. And they bring in 2 extra wide receivers who I don't really think offer too much. Jacoby Myers from the Patriots, who you've said in the past, if Jacoby Myers is your number 1, you might have a problem. And then, of course, they bring in one of my favorite receivers to dog over the last 6 or 7 years, and that's Philip Dorsett.
So Philip Dorsett was great with Brady. No, Jacoby Myers isn't bad. I like Jacoby Myers. I think he's good. I think in the right system, he's good. I just think Mac Jones isn't the best for the Patriots, but that's another time.
Yeah.
So I think him going to the Raiders kind of helps him because it's the same thing. It's the same offense. He's gonna be running concepts that are similar to what he did in New England. Having Devontae there is gonna take a whole lot off of him. He can basically run and do his thing. They've got Hunter Renfrow. He's solid.
Mm.
I would have thought they would have kept Waller. I think Waller just needed to bounce back, but I guess they're probably going to go tight end in the draft. Maybe they know something in the draft. They're running the ball. Josh Jacobs is going to be great. He's playing for, he was tagged, but he's going to play for a big contract. So
yeah.
It's just with Jimmy G, just don't throw the interception. Just don't throw the untimely pass. Because that's what he's done. But we'll see. The Raiders are slowly becoming Patriots West. So
I know.
Let's be realistic here. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Those 3 moves we highlighted, they're all former Patriots.
So it's like, really? If they aren't competitive this year, then people are really going to start asking for Josh's head. Let's be realistic. There's no way they're winning that division, but they've got to be competitive. Let's be realistic. I don't think they're winning that division. I don't know if playoffs will be interesting, but the AFC is just too stacked. I don't know if they've got it. They got enough pieces.
The times have flipped back. It was AFC for so long, and then NFC went on a run, and now it's kind of flipping back to AFC.
Yep, exactly. So now you've got maybe your 2 or 3 teams in the NFC, and now the AFC is whoever comes out alive.
Yeah,
and I think this year will be like that even more than we thought last year was going to be.
Yeah, I think so too. Because everyone's either hasn't won and got something to prove, they got a chip on their shoulder because they're playing for a contract, or they're like Josh Allen, they got a chip on their shoulder and just pissed off because they can't ever get to the game.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I don't think Buffalo has gotten that much better.
No, they really.
I think they've actually dropped back.
Yeah.
So, but we can say the same thing for the Chiefs. I don't know. So maybe this is a foreshadow of Joe Shiesty's year.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about the Bears. I didn't write them down for some reason, but they tie into Carolina as we spoke on before because of the trade with the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
But between both these teams had a very good offseason outside of that trade. The Bears, in return for that trade, brought back DJ Moore, among other parts. And they were also brought in a lot of other weapons, Robert Tonyan, Dante Freeman, the other piece they ripped off the Panthers.
Yep.
And they bring in defensive stud Tremaine Edwards from the aforementioned Buffalo. Buffalo lost a lot. So that's a pretty solid offseason for the Bears. Hopefully Fields can either stay on the field or prove that he's an NFL starting quarterback. And then the Panthers, they bring in a lot of weapons too. They get you brought up earlier, the Eagles lost Miles Sanders. He's going to Carolina. Alan Thielen got cut from Minnesota. He signed with Carolina. G.J. Chark's there now. Hayden Hurst, just because Cincinnati has to get rid of somebody and they're going to have to pay Burrow. Hayden Hurst was the unfortunate loss there, and he went to Carolina. So now they just loaded up a ton of weapons for offense that was really lacking in that last year.
Mhm.
So between the two of these, Bears and Panthers, Lions and Tigers and Bears, I guess, oh my. Though not so much the Lions.
Both these teams, you could, in theory, win their division. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
I think the Bears have a harder path to that, but they still could do it. Because let's be realistic, Minnesota. I don't know. At this rate, Minnesota kid doesn't do anything this year. It's over. Just sell it all off and let's start from scratch.
I was gonna say, how sad, how confident, like if you're the Bears, you kind of feel a little bit confident that if the road's wide open to the division, the biggest threat in front of you is the Detroit Lions.
Now not taking anything away from the Lions, because the Lions had a great season. Let's be real. The Lions were there. They ended Aaron Rodgers' chance at the playoffs. They, in theory, ended Aaron Rodgers' run in Green Bay. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
So, exactly. They may sit there and say it's going to be tough, but they believe.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys believe. So they are almost like the Lions of last year. No one believed in them, and they're like, it's us against the world kind of gig. So now you're going to find out what the Bears are. I think they're going to be an entertaining team. The Panthers, that's tough because it's just who's the quarterback.
Yeah.
You've gotten these pieces, but who's the guy?
Yeah.
These pieces have made it almost quarterback friendly. If you really look at it, whoever steps in there isn't going to be asked to do too much.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what their cap situation is. I can't imagine it's that bad. That's a team that if they really wanted to make a play for Lamar, that's a team that's ready for Lamar.
Yeah, but they weren't going to do it. No team, honestly, and we go back to Lamar. No team was going to touch it unless Lamar comes out and says, I don't want it. Lamar has to come out and say, I don't want a guaranteed contract. I just want to play somewhere where I feel appreciated, and I don't think it's Baltimore. If he says those things, then teams are going to say, okay, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Carolina, I don't think wants to touch that mess. I think they want to just start fresh.
Yeah.
You traded everything in the sun for this first pick, and who knows? They may trade down. Let's be realistic here. They may say, okay, there's another quarterback that we like. We'll trade down. Maybe they're like, maybe Richardson's our guy.
Yeah. Or even you brought him up for Levis.
Yeah.
If he slotted in at 18, you probably get a lot for the number 18 pick.
Exactly. They're like, we're thinking long term.
Yeah.
They'll sit there and say, you know what, we'll crap out a year or two, but with all these picks and such, we're gonna be here long term.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic to what they could do, but we'll see.
Couple also rans the Houston Texans. Pretty solid offseason. If they want to take in Bryce Young gonna have a pretty solid foundation to play with. They bring in Evan Singletary, solid backup running back for a few years with the Bills. The aforementioned Dalton Schultz, he landed in Houston. That's what's a quarterback's best friend? A reliable tight end.
There it is.
The aforementioned Laramie Tunsil running his own number.
That's it, man. Getting that money.
And former Bucks Shaq Mason, one of the cap casualties to get shipped out of Tampa. He lands with the Texans too. So this is really not. I mean, those are two additions to the offensive line. Those are two pretty solid weapons. They just plug in a quarterback to replace the giraffe.
I think they're going to probably stick with the giraffe unless they really. They probably will go quarterback. It's just I always hate when you draft somebody and then that quarterback doesn't have that mentor kind of to talk to kind of deal. So Mills isn't horrible. They're probably going to say, okay, let's see what happens. Maybe Mills pulls it off. It all depends who they take. That's just the question here. We don't know. There's too many questions in this draft. So, but no, I think with Ryans being a former, Texan, he's got the pride factor going and, everyone's all about it. So I think he's going to mold this team. I think it's going to be a lot like San Francisco. They're going to run like that, Shanahan offense. So they're going to be interesting to watch. I think they're going to play hard and, there could be a couple upsets. I think they're good for one a year.
Oh yeah, I don't really want to play that right now. Not with
Yeah.
not with the stats the Colts are in. Dolphins. Dolphins is a weird one because they're usually a team that makes a splash a little bit, but they lost Mike Gesicki. They made a trade for Jalen Ramsey. Rams pulling a page out of the Bucks playbook and dumping salary. And they did re-sign Tua, but only to 1 year. So that's not really much of a commitment to a guy that you basically threw on the coals last year with his concussion situation.
Well, it was his 5th year, his 5th year option. So a lot of people were surprised they picked it up because a lot of people were really nervous, like you said, about the concussions, but they believe in him. So this is it. If he ends up with any concussion issues this year, there's going to be a problem. Like, they need to protect him. So if he can stay healthy, I think he fits that offense, and he played well. He played well till he got hurt. So I don't think the talent is that much of an issue. Jalen, picking up Ramsey. Hey, man, if the Rams want to say, okay, here you go, then hey, they traded him out of conference. You knew that was going to happen. So, the Dolphins pick up a quality QB, cornerback. Some people think he's lost a step or two, but I still think he's a top 5. So with him and Xavier Howard, I think they're gonna be a great, back end there. And the Dolphins are gonna be legit. The Dolphins are legit. I think they can win that division. Right now, I would pick them to win that division.
Really? Over Buffalo?
I think Buffalo's a mess. Buffalo's a mental mess.
Yeah.
And you've heard Stephon Diggs. I don't know why we can't win. I don't know why we can't win. There's a lot of questions. There's no answers. You lost Tremaine Edmonds. You haven't really shored up anything. You picked up, you signed Poyer back for 2 years, but I don't know. Right now, I think Miami smells blood.
Oh, you imagine. I'm trying to see if there's anything that we talked about off air that we missed. We did, when we were talking about Carr before, we did fail to mention the Saints also brought Jamal Williams. I think that's a big loss for Detroit.
Yes.
If the Bears need any extra bulletin board material to tell themselves that they're the favorite in the NFC North, the man led the league in rushing touchdowns last year. So I think
he was a good guy. He was a great guy in the locker room. I think he was a guy that everybody liked, and he kind of kept them up in a positive way. Yeah, he was like he was a 5-yard, kind of back. These, like I said, he had moves. He was good. I honestly probably would have traded Swift. If I had to lose one, I would have kept Williams. I just like him. Maybe I just like the goofiness of it all. But I just think the guy was good. Any guy who talks about Pokemon in his press conference, hey, you do your thing, man.
I was just going to bring that up because they had him on Good Morning Football at some point during Super Bowl week. They asked him, like, hey, do you play Madden? I'm like, I don't play Madden. I play football for a living. I play fighting games. I play anime.
He walks up in there. He's got his Pokemon hat on, whatever one it is, and he just goes to town. And that's it, man. Like, that guy, that's a guy you want to keep in the locker room.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be he's probably going to be a majority back if freaking Kamara ends up doing some jail time or suspension.
Yeah. Yes. And the only other one I want to touch on before we wrap up was the Giants. They brought back Slayton, which I guess that's fair. I mean, there wasn't much of a receiving core with the Giants last year, but he was their number one.
He wasn't bad. He was injured.
Well, they bring in Paris Campbell, which part of me is like, thank goodness he's gone because he was a waste of space. That was a waste of a draft pick. But part of me is also thinking this is the next. Oh shoot, what was that? I can't think of his name because I hate him. I hate him with every fiber of my being. The dude that went to Buffalo and turned into an All-Pro that we drafted. Oh, why can't I think of his name? Oh, I can't. Whatever. I'll figure out later.
So you're upset because it's going to be one of those things where he leaves, and next thing you know, he blossoms into greatness.
Exactly. Danny Dimes is going to throw like 15 touchdowns to Paris Campbell next year. Watch. watch. Because
They always say
my life.
sometimes you just need a change in scenery.
I never would have thought of the Colts as toxic, but I guess we did end Andrew Luck's career before the age of 30. They bring in the aforementioned Darren Waller from Vegas. They did lock up Daniel Jones, which was a big question mark going into the offseason game before your big extension. And Saquon got the little bit of the Lamar Jackson treatment with the tender deal, but not nearly as toxic a situation as Lamar Jackson. So they took care of Danny Dimes. They took care of Saquon, kind of. They re-signed their weapon from last year. They bring in 2 new weapons. So that's pretty solid haul for the Giants, I'd say.
It's a haul, but I hope Danny Dimes is that guy because his contract, I think he's making like $45 million a year. I hope you think he's the guy.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest,
He only looks like Eli, people. He hasn't actually won anything like Eli.
This is, I think now Giants fans are going to think this is the year they're winning the division.
Yeah.
Like you've got to put up now. I think they'll probably go wide receiver in the draft and such because they definitely need wide receivers for sure. Their defense is good. I think they've got a good defense. So we'll see what happens, but the clock's on for Danny Dimes. Now is the time to shine. You want to be the man. You got paid like the man. Now here you go.
Now, speaking of the Giants, let's have some fun real quick before we talk about something else.
Okay.
Half of this point I was going to bring up was more of a positive note with one of your favorite also ran quarterbacks, Tyler Heineke. But the other half of this discussion was related to the Giants. They released one of your favorite players from last year. You know who I'm talking about.
Kenny Galladay.
Kenny
Galladay.
You're going to have to find a new whipping boy this season.
Kenny freaking Galladay, man. Paid that man a ton of cash. That man did nothing. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was just bad luck. I don't know, but I guess sometimes, like I said earlier, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And maybe that was it. The Giants felt that he was the guy. He was like the prize of free agency that year when they signed him, and he just never clicked. But I also think the Giants were in a tough spot. Danny Dimes was nowhere near ready at that point. So you bring in this big free agent, and they're not throwing the ball. Like they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't do anything. So hopefully Kenny Galladay finds somewhere to go. Guy could be a great number 3 somewhere. But hey, Kenny Galladay, congrats.
If he lands at Tampa, I'll laugh.
And you know what'll happen? Baker will make him a star. Make him a star. But no, I messed on Kenny Galladay because I kind of think he felt he was better than he was. He was a quality receiver. I'm not taking anything from him. But sometimes you got to eat the humble pie, and I just don't know if he did. So now, maybe he'll find somewhere and he can turn it around.
Now, I want to make this a little quick, but I do want to touch on the head coaches. We talked about the status of the Super Bowl participants last year, and the Eagles, granted, we already said, they held serve with the free agents, but they did lose both their coordinators. They lost Jonathan Gannon, who ran the defense, to the Cardinals, and they lost Shane Steichen, who ran the offense. They lost him to my Colts. So were those two. We touched on D'Amico Ryans very briefly, going home to be the new head man in charge of the Texans. Of course, the big coaching prize was Sean Payton taking over Let's Ride in Denver. My former head coach Frank Wright landing in Carolina.
It's a sign, Chase.
He's going back home.
Panther pride, Chase. Just jump on it, doggone it.
So, of these moves, which ones do you like? There wasn't a lot of openings this year. 1, 2.
No, there really weren't, and I honestly don't have a problem with any of them.
5, yeah.
I don't have a problem with anything. any of them. Like when you make the Super Bowl, like your staff gets poached. It's just fact. Especially the teams that are in the bottom, they're looking to re-energize. They're looking for that fresh, best new thing, and usually, it's a coordinator from a Super Bowl participant. So, I don't see anything wrong with that. I like all the moves. If my absolute best move, I won't lie, I like the Carolina move. I think Frank he's a quarterback guy. I think they're gonna bring in someone who he can develop. And I think they'll be good. But no, all the moves overall I think were solid. There wasn't anything that I was like, really? So I like them.
I think Frank, if Frank can start off with his Panthers tenure the way he started off his Indy tenure, that will energize that franchise and that fan base.
Oh, definitely will.
He came in. I don't know what happened towards the end there. Like he kind of lost his brass balls a little bit. He stopped being this aggressive play caller. He kind of changed up the methodology in games to calling plays that didn't really make sense at the time. Like Taylor would be running the ball down someone's throat and they couldn't stop them. And the second half would start, he'd keep doing it and they still couldn't stop him. They were making any adjustments. And all of a sudden he'd stop running the ball. So like he started calling these plays that just made absolutely no sense. But when he came to Indy, he was brass balls, chucking the thing all over the field, going for it on fourth down every single time. I mean, it was such a change of pace from Chuck Pagano. It was amazing. So if he could start off the Carolina tenure the way he started off the Indianapolis tenure, it's really going to pump a jolt of energy into the Panthers.
I think he will. But I also think in Indy it was a situation where he knew towards the end, all he had was Jonathan Taylor, and he didn't want to run that guy into the ground. And like you said, they'd run, and then he'd stop because he would hope that his quarterbacks would be able to do something, and then the quarterback situation just fell apart.
Yeah.
So I think he's learned from that, and I think he'll be able to turn it around and say, okay, this is my guy. Like you said, this is my guy. I'm starting fresh. This is all new, and just go into it. He's going to have, he's not going to have that power back really. Miles Sanders is a, shifty, receiving back. So I think they're going to be a real pass type offense. So I think it'll be good. But yeah, like I said, I like all the moves.
Yeah. What's your thought on the going home thing for D'Amico? Because I mean, Houston's been in a rough spot with head coaches lately.
Well, here's the thing. Lovie Smith, he was a lame duck. Like, let's be real. They wanted a babysitter. And that's what he was. Like, and the guys played hard for him. Like, I respect Lovie Smith.
They did.
I respect Lovie for going there, and I think he knew, like, I'm not getting this job. But he wanted to be in the league. So I respect him for it. D'Amico, I get it, It's, the team has a ton of cap space. They probably sold him on, do whatever you want. We want you to come home. And, that touches a player. Let's be realistic. It's an emotional thing. I just hope that it's not, this short-lived, it's feel-good story after 2 years and they're still sub 500. And people are like, well, I don't know.
That didn't work.
Might have to let him go. So I think he's learned a lot, especially being with Shanahan and stuff like that. I think his defense is going to be really good. I think it's going to be a Niner type defense.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting anything dramatic over the first year or so. Who knows? Weirder things have happened, but I think by year 3, they should be competitive. So no, I think they'll be good. I think they'll be in better hands than they were last year.
You got to share a plan on Let's Ride. Did Sean Payton make the right move, or should he have waited another year?
All right. So if he waits another year, where does he go?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, obviously Dallas is the prime would have been the prime target because if McCarthy fails again, as he's prone to doing.
I think, let's say he waited a year, right? Dallas, I think, still makes the playoffs. I think McCarthy's there for another year.
Mm-hmm.
But the seat becomes warm. Like if it's like a one and done in the playoffs, then it's like, all right, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
If he had the itch,
Tampa could be open, but does he really want to go to Tampa with their retooling that they have to do?
nope. If it was a situation where, like, Todd had been fired and Brady was like, hadn't decided yet, and they knew that, Peyton would have come, who knows? Brady may have stayed a year. Who knows? But no, I think out of all the teams, I think Denver was probably the readiest to win now, probably. So I don't fault him for taking it. It's just interesting knowing that you're walking into that division and, top of the mountain's Patrick Mahomes. So you feel confident that Let's Ride's gonna lead you to it.
And that's the thing. Like, we have this sour taste in our mouth because this experiment worked out so poorly. But it's really not a bad situation to be in. I mean, they don't have any picks, so it gives you no room for growth. But there are certainly worse quarterbacks to have than Russell Wilson. And that defense still has a lot of pieces on it. So it's really not the worst situation.
No, the team that team is good. There's no doubt that team could be solid. He didn't walk in and there's absolutely nothing there. It's just, we heard the stories about, Russ in his office there at the facility, and, Russ was all doing his thing and people were kind of mad about it. And then once Peyton came, he was kind of like, yeah, there's no offices. No, we all do everything together. So it's going to be a situation of, does Russ buy in? Does he sit there and say, yep, I'm one of 52 guys, or is he going to get all upset because, I'm not, it's not all about me? Because I think a lot of people think about Russ, that it's all about me.
Right. And I think he has to buy in, because if he doesn't, his reputation and legacy is going to take a serious hit, and it's already kind of teetering on that right now.
Exactly. And I think these owners are different than other owners. I think they would be the first to say, you know what, then Russ has got to go. Sean Payton's legit, so his legacy is winning. Won Super Bowl, he's got a Super Bowl just like Russ, but his coaching, he's always been at the top. So Russ has got to put up the numbers, and he's got to be that guy.
And last point on the coaches before we talk draft for a couple minutes. I will say the one thing I really liked about Shane Steichen coming into Indy is he kept Gus Bradley.
Yeah, that was a smart move.
Yeah, because our defense did play hard in spite of the fact that Leonard barely played all year.
Yeah. I think he was like, you know what? I'm not going to change it. There's why change it? It wasn't, Gus, it wasn't bad at all. So you keep that, you got that continuity there, and you just go from there. That's one less thing that he's got to worry about, because I think it's the offense that he's got to really worry about. So it's a smart move.
Real quick in the draft, I mean, right now the projection is CJ at the top. I know they have to take a quarterback. I'm just not big on Ohio State quarterbacks. Bryce going to Houston, I kind of like that. I mean, Bryce is undersized, but Houston definitely needs a jolt of electricity, and they've had a good offseason like we talked about. D'Amico's a great hire like we talked about. He's a hot name, right? Of course, going into his first gig. So I think drafting a big name quarterback out of a championship pedigree like Alabama is, I guess. I think that works.
It's the safe move. It's the safe move.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go out on a limb and pick the guy from Kalamazoo, West Virginia State Junior College, and say this is my guy. You're gonna take as much polish as you can.
There's a lot of edge rushers up here. Like, there's right before our slot at number 4, where we're projected to take Richardson, there's an edge rusher in front of him. There's 2 behind him, and 2 more D linemen after him. So there's a lot of beef up front that I would love to see the Colts take. We have needed a pass rush. We have needed an edge rusher for so long since Freddie Mathis retired. Based on what our quarterback situation is, I just don't know if we will. I really want to see him do it. I just don't think they will. I think they will take a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I really want them to take one of these edge rushers because there's so many. There's so many right at the top of the draft board.
No, and I get it. I totally get it. I would say yes if it was a situation where you had enough offense to put 14 points up a game. If your defense was strong enough, or if that was like the last piece you needed, all right, fine. But I think there's just too many holes, and being up there, unless you get a haul for that pick, and you believe one of these other quarterbacks is your guy, and you can get something, I think some guys may drop. So who knows? But yeah, I think you have to go quarterback. I think you guys have been snake bitten ever since Luck left, and you need something.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a jolt, I think you guys need that jolt.
I'm looking. I'm just going up and down. No other names are jumping out at me, but the prevalent positions I'm seeing up and down the first round are a lot of defensive linemen and offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. So this might be, and there's some defensive backs too, but so this might be a year like 2 or 3 years ago where there weren't a lot of marquee names. So it was a lot of those extremely important supporting positions.
Mm-hmm.
Beef up that line in a kind of down year for stars, so to speak.
Well, yeah, because let's be honest, running backs now, unfortunately, they're devalued to the point where if no one takes one by like middle second round, it's no one's blinking an eye. Like, let's be realistic. No one's looking for running backs anymore.
And to double down on that with wide receivers, Colin Cowherd said years ago, and I love this point by him, that receivers just by nature are divas.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't need to draft a wide receiver in the first round and inflate their ego even more. There was, I can tell you right now, we just talked about him a few minutes ago, Paris Campbell, first round wide receiver, complete bust. Hell, even Philip Dorsett, did absolutely nothing for the Colts, first round wide receiver. But as much of a head case as he turned out to be, Antonio Brown was putting up Hall of Fame numbers for years and wound up winning a Super Bowl and playing really well in that Super Bowl for Tampa. He was like 3rd, 4th, 5th round, something ridiculous.
Yeah. It's one of those things. That first round tag really, depending on the guy, either, the guy's hungry and wants to make sure and wants to prove that he deserves that, or there's some guys who walk in and it's, this happens in college. You're the man, you're given everything. You just assume you're walking in the league that's going to continue. And then the harsh realities hit. So no, unless Jerry Rice is walking through that door, I'm for a wide receiver in the first round. Unless something's going on and this is the last piece you need, and there's teams, making moves to kind of maybe take your guy, then maybe, but no. Right now, if you can get that O-line and D-line going, then after that, you work from there. But
yeah,
each team does it their own way.
Yeah, and offensive linemen don't have egos anyway.
And they're the guys who should.
He's not going to know their name.
And those are the guys who should.
Yeah.
Because let's be realistic, your offense does nothing without that line.
That's right. Yeah, I'm all about it. Beef it up. Our offensive line was injured this year, but it's still in a generally good space. So I would prefer us to go defensive line, because we have needed an edge rusher like a hole in the head. Ironically enough, we also have needed receivers like a hole in the head, but I'd rather have an edge rusher right now.
I got you.
What do you think? What do you want Tampa to do? Because right now,
what do I want from Tampa?
Right now, they are projected to take. Where are they? I'll find it again.
I'm thinking. I believe they were. I know some some people have said D-line, edge. Because with we've had some injuries. People have left. Oh man.
And they're moving worse.
Because I got Shaq Barrett. He's been hurt. He's coming back off the ACL.
The man who should have been Super Bowl MVP.
Yes, he should have. Love me some Shaq Barrett. Love him. If I knew I could get a quality lineman, O-lineman to come in, because the O-line has been in such flux these last few years, I'd like that. But if a nice linebacker or a corner drop down, I'm all about that defense, because I think we're going to hang our hat on that defense for a while till we truly know who the long-term quarterback situation is. Because right now we don't know.
I have good news for you. CBS has, that's the mock I've been looking at, they have Tampa slotted to take an offensive tackle.
I think that's what you got to do, because you just don't know. We don't know what the quarterback situation is. I'd like Kyle Trask to win it out. I'm not going to lie. I think guy's got talent, but I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't seen enough to make that assumption. The only gameplay he had last year was that last half a quarter or so against Atlanta in a game that didn't matter. So, and I think Baker's coming in, and when Baker's head is right, he's a fiery guy. He can make the throws. So right now I think he's playing for his career.
Would you be okay throwing, whether it's Baker, obviously the edge is Baker right now, because just Trask, like you said, just doesn't have the wheels under him the last few years. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Baker or Trask, would you be comfortable kind of proverbially throwing them to the Lions to beef up that defense and not addressing the offensive line with a first round prospect?
I think the guys that we have on the O-line are good. I think they're decent. They're young. There's some young guys that got a lot of play last year. Levert and a couple other guys. I think the problem is they would survive, and I think we're not built to survive. I think we have enough where we can be competitive, but I want it to be long term. So if a quality O-line guy drops to us because they jack up the top half of the draft, then I'm willing to take a steal. Because I think, you're going to get that value in the third, fourth round. I think there's a lot of talent in that, so I think you'll be okay. But if I can get an O-line guy, I would prefer that. But yeah, I really don't want to throw anyone to the Lions, especially Kyle. I wouldn't want to do that. It would be different if he's played for a couple years, he understands it. Okay, fine, whatever. But by week 6, 7, the guy's going to be like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
He's going to be like, "Yeah, this is what Tom went through. I don't like this."
That's right.
I would rather shore up the O-line, because at that point, I think the offense is going to be in a better spot.
All right, before we say goodnight, final word on the offseason. Good, bad, and different.
It's been entertaining. It has been entertaining. I am tired of the Aaron Rodgers watch. I just want it to end. I want to wake up tomorrow and the Jets gave 4 number ones for the next 5 years. I don't care. I just want it to end.
You know what?
I want Lamar to make his money. Lamar goes somewhere. I don't know. Do what you got to do. And that's really it. I think those are just the 2 sticking points, because we're just waiting every day. What's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening? Because now you've got the second and third tier free agents kind of doing it. I'm kind of interested to see where OBJ goes. He's kind of still sitting out there. Like to see where he ends up. But yeah, just let Aaron Rodgers figure out his life, get him somewhere so I can move on. Because let's see, where are we on the list of dates? Because I have my dates here. The annual league meeting, I believe, will be starting
this week,
March 26th to the 29th.
Oh.
So could be, never know. Could be some interesting things. And then April 3rd, teams with new head coaches can begin their off-season conditioning. So your guys will be starting some off-season, stuff. And then we're waiting on the draft, 27th through the 29th.
Just about exactly a month away.
Yes, I will be there in Tampa for the draft. Very, very, very exciting. Going to see that. Hopefully Baker will be there. Hopefully I can meet the Baker man.
Be like, you're not number 12, but 6 is half of 12.
I'm like, if you know what that means then? That means you're giving me 3 rings. 3-point ... whatever. I'll take that.
3-point ... whatever.
I'll take the 3. Hey man, let Baker give me some rings. I'm cool with that. Cleveland will be sitting there, tears in their eyes. Be like, thank you. No, but I'm excited to see what this whole Baker thing is. What's funny is I saw him play the Bucks his rookie year. They came down here. That's when the Bucks wore those hideous uniforms. They're still wearing those awful uniforms. And I saw him. And I think Baker's got talent.
I know what you're talking about.
Like the triangular.
Yep.
Man. Yep. I don't know who thought that up, but geez.
We gotta be edgy.
Yeah, it was edgy, all right. Edge into the trash. But I really think Baker's got talent. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. I think the draft is gonna be I think it's gonna be nuts. I think there's gonna be some crazy moves.
I'm excited for the draft.
So that's what we got.
Show?
What's up?
Live show for the draft? We sit there and watch it. We'll sit there and watch it and do the show at the same time.
Hey man, I got a couple extra tickets. If you got nothing going on, I know you'll be here the following week.
Honestly enough, we would have missed it by a week because I will.
Yep, exactly, because you'll be here that following week.
Yep.
But you know what? Call out sick. Come on, man. You might be able to meet the Baker man.
I was gonna say something, but it made more sense in my head than out loud.
Yeah, it's a family show.
Yeah. All right, with that, we'll catch this up next time. Maybe if it doesn't take another 4 months, we'll do another show when Aaron Rodgers actually does wind up in a new location.
If not, then hey, whatever. I'm not worried about it. It's Aaron Rodgers. You guys know how I care.
Till next time.
Later.